Hey guys, Russell here from homebrewrepublic.co.nz. How you going? I'm brewing my first ever hazy today and we're checking out the Mangrove Jacks Craft Series Hazy IPA. Let's get into the video. Hi guys, Russell here from homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Welcome officially to today's brew review. You already know I'm brewing my first ever hazy IPA and we're checking out the Mangrove Jacks Craft Series Hazy IPA kit. Now this kit, it was one of the biggest selling kits last summer. It stayed one of the biggest selling kits throughout 2024 so far, and I anticipate it will be one of the biggest selling kits going into next summer. We're very nearly tapping on spring at this point. $1 million question, what is a hazy IPA? So hazy IPAs are thought to have originated from a brewery in Vermont in the USA, specifically in the early 2010s and more specifically again 2010/2011. The brewery in Vermont is called The Alchemist. They created a brew called the Heady Topper. Now that brew is thought to be, it was probably called, well, it was labelled a New England IPA, otherwise known as a NEPA. And that description, NEPAs, New England IPAs, are thought to be what we currently refer to today as hazy IPAs. As the name would suggest, the first thing that we get with a hazy IPA is a hazy characteristic in its visual appearance, but there are a few other attributes they're known for. So the next one is a massive, big, juicy, often fruity, hop-forward flavour profile. So the NEPAs in particular have also been referred to or also been known as juice bombs. They do tend to have a lighter body, often with a smoother mouthfeel. And the other notable characteristic is the bitterness. So if we think particularly in terms of American IPAs or American Pale Ales, which do tend to have a bigger, bolder bitterness on the front, the NEPAs and the hazies as a style tend to have a low to moderate level of bitterness. This kit in particular has an IBU of 30 to 38. Which I would easily call a moderate bitterness, and I do note here as well, bitterness rating 3 out of 5, so fits into that moderate kind of a category. Right, what we're going to do from here, guys, is we are going to check out this kit, then we're going to smash this brew together, and I'll see you guys back for the official taste test. This, guys, is the hazy IPA kit itself. Like we've already said, it's from the Mangrove Jacks Craft Series range. I'm a big fan of these kits. First thing to know is they are filled using a nitrogen flushed cold filled process. Now what that essentially means is they've removed oxygen from the filling process. By removing oxygen, we are able to preserve the quality of the malt, particularly in terms of flavour and aroma characteristics. What that means is we've got a high quality malt coming into our kit. We've protected the quality of that malt, and now it's right here for you to pour into your fermenter and make that brew. The kit itself, or the pack itself, is a really clever pack. Essentially it has two sides. One is a soft side or a wet side, and one is a dry side, which has our auxiliary ingredients, our hops, our yeast, and our comprehensive instructions. So, trick for young players, if you feel the kit, what you'll be able to see is a softer side, which in this case is this side, so that is our wet side, and a firmer side where we'll be able to feel our firmer ingredients. One thing we always want to try and do when brewing is drop our malt into some warm water to soften it up, to pour it. Now the trick here is to take a knife and carefully try and do that so you can see it. Didn't quite do the best job of that. But what you can see here is I've opened up the dry side. What that's going to mean is I can take up my hops, comprehensive instructions, craft series yeast, and that will be all. What you want to do when you're doing that, I hashed that up a bit, you want to make sure you don't push through and puncture your wet side. So what we're now able to do is put this pack into a bowl of warm water and soften up that malt. To brew on, what I unfortunately did in this case was puncture my hops, which we won't be using until later in the brewing process. So what I'm going to do is put those in an airtight container and store them in the fridge. Welcome to the garage, ladies and gentlemen. Temperature controller, target temperature set for 18.5, current temperature 22.5 degrees, very top end of ideal fermentation temperature range. Let's get inside the fridge. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, inside the fridge. Been cooling here for a couple of hours, all hooked up. One thing that I didn't notice before, right there, I did actually notice the packet wasn't the standard aftermarket packet for the craft yeast. But when I looked closer, right there, small little detail, 16 grams. So the standard craft series packets are 10 grams of yeast. This one, 16 grams. So big dose of yeast, for us to add. Speaking of which, let's get our lid off and pitch this yeast. There we go, guys. There's the wort. Doesn't come up all that, there you go, clearly, but you can see certainly the golden hue, but also the hazy tone, even though it is only wort at this point. Either way, let's get this going. Yeast, brew, and we're in. One thing, I'm kind of stepping back on something I said before, but remember the piece with this yeast is it is a really sensitive yeast. So I have been very specific this time to make sure temperature had come down, and remember again the ideal fermentation temperature range is 18 to 22. Gone for the low end of that, setting the temp controller at 18.5. All that said, next time we will check in will be to pitch the hops. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the garage again. Day 7. Gravity has hit 1.020. There's our hops going in. Can see how active fermentation has been, and we can see that we still have fermentation activity. Right, hops 50 grams out of the pack. In they go. Okay, if you don't have a fridge and are able to cold crash and at the very least cold crash, but preferably rack off into a bottling bucket. Make sure you use a hop sock. Don't do what I did, which is colloquially referred to as going commando. If you do have a fridge, can cold crash and rack off, that's going to be fine, won't cause you any issues. All that said, guys, let's get the lid back on and then see you on the other side for the taste test. Cheers! Hey guys, welcome back to the official taste test for the Mangrove Jacks Craft Series Hazy IPA. Here we go. Beautiful little pop and bottle, glass, pour. This has overcarbonated very slightly, but still right. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, the Mangrove Jacks Craft Series Hazy IPA. My first kind of issue is we've missed the hazy piece, but it is still a very, very beautiful colour. Alright, what we will step through is essentially what we've got in terms of how this brew's come out. I'll touch on some feedback I've seen from other brewers, particularly in our Facebook group, the Homebrew Republic Kit Brewing Community, and I'll talk about some things in my mind that I would do differently or try differently. So first up, head retention, good head retention. Colour is beautiful, but as I said, it's missed in my mind the hazy concept. It's actually cleared up really, really nicely. So looks really beautiful, just not so hazy in my mind. The aromas coming off the top, definitely leading out with the tropical fruit notes and hints of citrus, which unsurprisingly is also the descriptor of our flavour profile. What I would say about this from a flavour perspective is massive hop forward flavour profile and big juicy profile. I've said in the past on plenty of reviews that one of my favourite Mangrove Jacks kits in the Craft Series range is the Juicy Session IPA. This next level again on juiciness. So if you like a big citrus, a big juicy profile, certainly hit the nail on the head here. What I would say about the way we've done it is we use the Mangrove Jacks Enhancer. Now what that's given us is an exceptionally light, very light malt character on the back. And that juicy profile on the front, really this brew is all about the big juicy profile. The body, nice light body and very smooth on the mouthfeel. I really like that, and I think that's come through a bit from the enhancer as well, which would have helped that. But really happy with the body, really happy with the mouthfeel. I'm not criticising the big juicy profile, I love it, but make sure that's what you like. I think that pretty much sums the brew up. What I would say is I started drinking this from 4 weeks. This is now probably 12, if not 13 weeks old. When I started drinking it earlier, the hop forward profile was a lot more profound and a lot more intense, particularly the citrus notes on the front. It's mellowed, still strong, but mellowed over time. The other thing I would say is the body has really matured over time, and initially I almost felt it had a lighter body, but as the brew matured, It has smoothed out and felt a little bit more rounded to me. So as always, I'm definitely a fan of letting these brews bottle mature if you're bottling up to around the 8 to 10 week mark, where you'll get the best from them. And really the only area I would criticise this, which potentially has something to, it potentially is to do with the fact we've used enhancer. Like I said, it hasn't come out hazy. It's still, like, that is so clear, it's not funny. It's still come out a really beautiful colour and a really beautiful finish, just not hazy. I do feel like it was partially hazy early on, and just as we've allowed the bottle maturing, it's really bottle cleared and lost its haziness. So that would probably be the area I would criticise it a little. I think is a shortcoming in the context of the brew being a hazy, but not a shortcoming in terms of taking away from the overall quality or drinkability of the brew. Next, let's talk about some of the feedback, and I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. This kit has actually been out for a while, and it had been brewed by a number of people before I got to it. And one thing I really appreciated was being able to reach into or ask for feedback in our group and get some views of brewers who had already brewed this. And there were two really quite pivotal pieces of feedback for me. The first one was a brewer who said they did the kit with 1.2 kgs of light liquid malt extract from Mangrove Jacks. And what they said was they felt that the finish stepped too far away from the intent of a hazy. So knowing the general flavour profile of the Mangrove Jacks light malt, and also the general sort of colour profile, I can imagine, number one, that colour would have come off a little bit darker, and it really would have built up a little bit more malt character in the back. The feedback from that brewer was it was still nice, and they commented that their friends had still enjoyed it, but they felt it just wasn't a hazy, which was the intended brew. I would imagine it would start to feel a bit more like an IPA, just a standard IPA, if you took that approach. The other brewer who I took feedback from, and these points were really valid, I think, they said two things. Number one, this kit, unlike most of the craft series kits, has a final or a total volume in the fermenter of 19 litres. And so the first part of that is the brewer said that these are expensive kits. They're at the upper end of the market, and it's got lower yield than what we'd normally expect. To put this in context, I would normally get, out of a 23 litre brew, 2 cases of beer, and then maybe another 4 bottles on the side. And with this brew, I had under 2 cases, and you do lose a bit. I mean, you leave a bit in the fermenter when you transfer into a bottling bucket. You lose a bit along the way when you're pulling out for your test tubes, so you don't get your full 19 litres anyway. So I would agree there is lower yield. And then the other thing the brewer said was this has a target ABV of 6.8%. This came out pretty much spot on that. I was at 6.83 or something to that effect. I'll just call that last 0.03 on the end a rounding piece. So more or less I got the target ABV, but at 6.8%, this is a solid hitting brew. Definitely not at that ABV, depending on your perspective, session territory, more of a enjoy and drink with a bit of caution kind of level. But that was their comment, was from their perspective, the ABV was a little bit too high. Now their solution to that, they basically said really, really awesome brew and really happy with the kit, but those were the two drawbacks from their perspective. So their solution, which is really valid, is rather than doing 19 litres, is to go and add additional water, bring it up to 21 or bring it up to 23. That's actually going to solve both of those problems. It's going to give you back the yield that you're looking for, and it's also going to reduce the alcohol content down. Probably could have worked this out before I started the video. at a pure guess, I would say that if you went from 19 to 23, you would probably bring the target ABV down to around the 5 to 6% mark, probably somewhere in the middle, maybe 5 to 5.5, just at a guess. So still a solid ABV, but not quite the punchiness of 6.8, which for some people will make it more enjoyable and more drinkable. Now, so that was the feedback I had from other brewers. But I do want to say, despite those comments, this has been one of the biggest selling kits of 2024 so far, and it is still the case. We are in general in the middle of a massive hazy phase. The world quite literally is seeing hazy. And to Mangrove Jacks' credit, they were pretty early in the market. They were one of the, I don't think they were quite first, but they were one of the earlier brands in the market to have a really good hazy kit available. And I think the sales of this kit have really reflected that. It is really well liked by brewers. I would do this kit again. If I was, there's one change I would make and another change I would consider. The first change I would make is I would try wheat liquid malt extract. So one of the things I said, it's cleared up, it's not as hazy as we'd want it to be. When I looked around, I'm in general a fan of using liquid malt extract with brews. I do like a little bit of extra body and definitely that smoothness. I do like this has come out with a slightly lighter body. It's made it really drinkable, really nice. And perfect as a summer brew. But what I would like is potentially a little bit more character of some description in the back to help balance that big, bold, fruity, juicy profile on the front and that massive hop character. What I wouldn't use personally is light liquid malt extract. I completely agree with the feedback I saw from the other brewer that I think it would step too far away from the intended brew. I've had a look at a few recipe approaches published by other brands, and the two ways that people tend to go is either ultralight malt extract or wheat malt extract. So if I break those two down separately, ultralight, Mangrove Jacks don't do an ultralight, so you need to either go to, well, you can look at any other brand. For us that would be Black Rock or Brick Road. Black Rock do a 1.7 kg can, Brick Road have a 1.5 kg can. I would probably, if I was going liquid malt, I would probably tend towards the 1.5 kg can over the 1.7 in this case. But rather than ultralight, I feel I would almost tend towards wheat. The reason that I would tend towards wheat, and I'd need to do some more research into this, but wheat malts, I believe, have an enzyme in them which is really well suited to enhancing the hazy effect in hazy brews. Plus, I also think that the wheat malt extract and the flavour profile that comes with it is really, really well suited to this brew. Tends to have potentially slightly grassy notes, but certainly bready and biscuity notes, and I think that would work really, really well in this brew. Mangrove Jacks do a wheat liquid malt extract, 1.5 kgs, so that would be an easy place to go. Equally, if you were looking at other brands, I know Black Rock and Brick Road both do a wheat LME as well. The other thing that I would consider, and if I go back to the fact that I said I've really enjoyed that this has that slightly lighter body over going into a full liquid malt extract, the other way you could go is trying dry malt extract, and Brick Road do, it's either 1 or 1.2 kg bags of wheat dry malt extract. That would be something else I would try as well. In fairness, if put me on the spot and say which way would I go, I would either, if I was going liquid, I would go 1.5 kgs of the wheat Mangrove Jacks liquid malt extract. If I decided to go dry, I would be on the Brick Road wheat dry malt extract. And yeah, the other change is I would probably lift this up from 19 litres, maybe not all the way up to 23, but maybe a middle ground, 21. I would go and properly work out what I think it would do to ABV if I thought this was still going to come in easily between 5 and 6 at 23 litres. I'd do that. I'd go to 23, get my yield back. I'm more than happy with 5 to 6%. That's solid for me on a brew. But all in all, like I've said, 100% good brew, really happy with the outcome, and would happily do it again. What else have we been brewing? Man, something really exciting for us. I actually brewed my first ever wine, Pinot Noir. You're going to see that probably in 2 months' time. Still waiting for feedback to come in, but we've shared that incredibly widely. I made 2 cases of wine. I looked at it the other day. 1 case has gone out. It's basically been given away to friends and family. So looking forward to that feedback coming back in. But what I can say is my wife really enjoys it, and really if she's happy, I'm happy, and that's probably what I need to know in that case. I brewed a clone recipe. So one of my favourite brews if I'm out or go-to brews is the Panhead Supercharger APA. I love that brew. I did a clone recipe of that. That has come out exceptionally well. Really happy with that, and that's actually going to be my next brew review, so keep an eye out for that next month. And had another crack at a stout. So you will have seen one of my last videos was on, I had a crack at a coffee cream stout. Wasn't quite happy with the way that turned out, so I got another one straight on and tried a slightly different approach. Taste tests came out exceptionally well, a lot closer to where I wanted it to land. What's interesting as well is I've also gone off and done some more research on using lactose in brewing and in particular on dosage rates. So 2 interesting things have happened. I'll come back to that research in a second. I did that brew review for the milk stout before I'd had a lot of the feedback back in from friends and family, and I kind of knew this would happen. I recorded it, and then in the weeks that followed, a lot of the people who hadn't responded to me yet came back and went, man, that was super awesome. So basically, I think had I had that feedback, I certainly would have brought that feedback into the brew, but it made me feel as though I was a bit harder on the brew and that was possibly as a result of my personal preferences and also maybe the depth of my knowledge in stouts, which I've acknowledged, that was the second one I've ever made. But basically a bunch of people came back and said, wow, that was really amazing. And we were really clear about what they liked about it. One of them even said, he lives in a flat, he said, I shared that with 4 people in my flat. One of them is a chef who's got a refined palate and said it was really awesome. So it was really favourable feedback. The other thing, going back to my research, one of the things I wanted to have a really good look at was around dosage rates of lactose in brewing and what the different outcomes are. The dosage rate that I used was, just talking approximate numbers here, was about 20 grams per litre of lactose, which, having known what I know now, I regard as being incredibly high. And I'm about to publish, at the end of this month, I'm publishing some content on my website around how to use lactose in brewing based on what I've learned, and one of the parts of that is dosage rates. But basically the generally accepted ranges of dosage rates, if we're talking low, medium and high, low would be 5 grams per litre, medium would be about 9 grams per litre, and high would be 13 grams per litre. So that 20 grams per litre was exceptionally high. So potentially I also did a disservice, despite the fact I've just said that I got incredibly good feedback to it. I've probably gone to an extreme end of using lactose in brewing, and it's potentially going to appeal to people who really do like that sweeter style of beer. Apparently I found a few of those. Either way, I guess my point is, I was just randomly sharing there what I've been doing and what I've been thinking and what I've been learning. All that said, if you've watched this far, thanks guys, really appreciate it. Remember, we've got a Facebook group, Homebrew Republic, Kit Brewing. Find us, there's a bunch of people in there who are sharing their brews, sharing what they know, and I learn a lot from it. Like I'm asking questions in there, and people are sharing tips about yeasts or different ingredient combinations they like. Everyone's always happy to share feedback on specific kits or specific recipes, which is really, really awesome. It's a really cool place and I'm enjoying it. The website, homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Check us out. We're obviously here and ship nationwide across New Zealand. But all that said, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video as much as we enjoyed brewing and drinking it. And I'm going to say cheers. Catch you next time.
Cheers.